Bringing you a first look at these sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us are Martin Ziegler from The Times and The Sun's Jack Rosser. Welcome along, chaps. We'll hear from you briefly, but we'll quickly run through the back pages first. And here's how they look. The fallout to Saturday's defeat against Chelsea continues as Thomas Frank urges Spurs fans to hold the booze and carry the team forwards. They also report on TrentAlexander-Arnold's return to Anfield on Tuesday night, plus an exclusive interview with Mark Wood, who claims that he is ready for the Ashes. He's been out injured for a long time, hasn't he, Mark Wood? He's got that express pace that England desperately need. More Frank quotes in the Metro, plus news of a potential injury blow for Arsenal striker Viktor Gyokeres. He'll not play in this week's Champions League match against Slavia Prague. It's set to be an interesting return to Anfield for TrentAlexander-Arnold as his Real Madrid side play Liverpool in the Champions League. But what kind of reception will he get? That's discussed in Jack's paper, The Sun. Poignant picture of Trent paying his respects to former teammate Viktor Gyökeres in the Telegraph as he laid flowers by his memorial on Monday night. They also report on police bringing in 700 officers for Aston Villa's match against Maccabi Tel Aviv. The Eye also say that Sunderland show granite after they came from 1-0 down to draw with Everton. Xhaka scoring their equaliser, and the Black Cats are up to 4th in the table. Right, welcome once again to Martin and to Jack. We're going to talk Tottenham Hotspur and Thomas Frank, admittedly also Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven, and what happened at full time in Tottenham's 1-0 defeat to Chelsea at home. Chelsea really have the wood on Spurs at the moment, and particularly at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. Martin, if I can come to you first. This is the Guardian, and we can see it there at the bottom. We need a bit of help. Frank urges Spurs fans to hold booze and carry team forwards. Before we get to the booze, though, I just wonder on the snub itself. I'm sure you might have seen the footage as well. It's quite clear. Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven don't want to speak to Thomas Frank, let alone listen to him to go and then applaud the home fans. How concerning is that in the first place, or is it just heat at the moment, one of those things that happens, especially now that we've had the apology?
I think it's more a reaction of the players to the booze. So it's perhaps less of a snubbing the manager, although they have apologised, and more, they were so disgusted by the reception they got. I mean, Spurs are 6th in the table. It's not as though they're in the bottom 3. That they, I think they just thought, yeah, the manager wants us to go and applaud the fans anyway, but they're booing us. We're not going to do it. It's a bit of an issue, but I think the fact that they've come forward and apologised and it perhaps explained that in the heat of the moment they just felt that it's not something they wanted to do. I think that'll be perhaps the end of it. I mean, the only interesting thing now is how the Tottenham fans will react to those players the next time they do play at the stadium.
Let's go to the back page of the Metro to get further analysis on this story. And you can see there a Frank apology. Yes, so I mean, I think it was kind of handy, wasn't it, Jack, that he got this apology from the players because he knew that he was going to answer questions on this ahead of Tottenham against Copenhagen in the Champions League. But, OK, he might have dealt with this OK, but generally Tottenham as a whole right now, especially at home, 3 wins in 19 in the Premier League at their home ground. What do you make of it under Thomas Frank so far?
Yes, it's not a very happy place. I was at the game on Saturday, and you can see both sides of the snub. Really, it's something that Frank has always done. He did it his whole time at Brentford. That regardless of the result, they would do a lap of the pitch, applauding the fans that were there. There weren't many fans left to applaud at Spurs on Saturday, and I always get a bit frustrated. You go to so many games now, and every game almost at half time, if one team's leading, there's boos from somewhere, and it's just become something that is a fixture of every game. But there was definitely nothing to cheer for the Spurs fans in that game against Chelsea. They were so laboured, so poor on the ball. There was nothing to get fans off their seat and cheering in terms of playing forwards quickly. And there's a few comments that sort of this is them getting used to Thomas Frank style football, but I really don't think it is. I don't think his Brentford team's ever played such pedestrian football with that little directness or confidence. There was a lot of sideways passing and going backwards and turning down chances to shoot. And it doesn't feel like they're comfortable at home at the moment. They always felt a bit unnerved, I suppose, at home under Ange Postecoglou the last couple of years. You never really knew if they'd be able to get a lead and sit on it the way they relentlessly kept playing in his far more attacking style. And now there's worries, I suppose, about whether they can go and get that lead. They certainly didn't create much outside of set pieces at the weekend, and they've got two big home games coming up. Obviously, this one in the Champions League, and then Manchester United to follow that. So if they can find some form again, they're obviously missing attacking players. Kulusevski's not there. James Maddison's out for a long time. Kolo Muani certainly hasn't settled yet, and Solanke's absent. So there's a lot to come back in for Spurs, and a lot that they can sort of hang their hopes on in terms of things getting better. But it's in terms of, you know, getting fans excited and behind them, it's starting from a low base.
Let's continue on the theme of boos. We saw in the last few games that Trent Alexander-Arnold played for Liverpool that he was roundly booed by his home support. In the back page of The Sun, Liverpool versus Real Madrid. Prepare to cop it, Trent. Slot, I'll welcome him, but let's see about the fans. What are we expecting at Anfield, Martin? A cacophony of boos, or maybe something a little friendlier?
I think it may turn out to be mixed. I mean, there was an outbreak of, you know, quite large scale booing towards the end of his time there, but actually not in the final match that he played at Anfield. I think there'd been a bit of a change of heart by some of the fans, and yes, they didn't like how he left, but they thought, let's not just end it like this. So I think when he returns, I'm sure there will be some people who feel very strongly the fact that he feel like he sort of deserted the club where he grew up. But I also think other people will give him a warm welcome. And I think, you know, what Slot has said, I mean, he's not appealed to the fans to do that, interestingly. But I think what he said at least, you know, sets the stage for those fans who do want to show the better side of Liverpool and welcome back one of their own, that they will have that opportunity. But I'm sure it'll be a bit mixed.
And also remember that Trent Alexander-Arnold has already been to Anfield, and that's because he was laying flowers. This is in the Daily Telegraph. You can see the picture of Trent's Jota tribute, as they call it, an emotional homecoming. I mean, it's good, isn't it, that obviously he's recognised the poignancy of that story, that he played with Jota for a number of years, and he's choosing to, you know, to mark his return to Anfield with, you know, a gesture like this, Jack. Yeah,
and it's nothing more than you'd expect from a player, a person like Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's been brought up at that football club since a young man. He's 27 now. He's been brought up in the way of doing things properly. It's a thing that he will have wanted to go out and do, and to pay his respects to somebody that was an incredibly popular figure within the Liverpool dressing room, and someone that was so close with a number of players there and achieved an awful lot in a footballing sense with Trent Alexander-Arnold, but was a huge part of his life off the pitch as well, I'm sure. And it's good of Xabi Alonso to join him and mark that moment, as well as somebody that was a big figure at Liverpool during his playing career. And you never know whether that will impact the reception that Trent gets tomorrow night, as well as this, since the end of last season when he was getting those boos. I think Jurgen Klopp came out and spoke quite directly and said he was really not happy to see it, something that wasn't, like Martin said, the good side of Liverpool. So I'm sure, especially given he's not made the best start, he's been struggling with injury at Real Madrid and not been able to pull up any trees there yet. There may be a couple of jibes towards that, but you would hope that common sense takes over and there's a warmer welcome back from the majority of Anfield.
Let's talk about another of the Champions League ties, and that's Arsenal's trip to Slavia Prague. And we know that they will go there without the option to pick Viktor Gyökeres. In the Metro, they say Gyökeres doubt. We know that he has been ruled out, by the way. Has gone as lacking firepower. Martin, I mean, this feels like it's an area where it could be critical for Arsenal, and they've got a few players out in forward positions. And of course, you know, Gyökeres is a man they paid an awful lot of money for in the summer, who they rely upon. This is not ideal, is it, for Mikel Arteta? Not just with this game, which they should win, obviously, given the opposition, but also the trip to Sunderland at the weekend.
Yeah, they've got Kai Havertz out, Gabriel Jesus out, and now Gyökeres, which is I think Arteta sounded really worried about it, I thought. But maybe it's just the uncertainty he's worried about. I mean, he hasn't scored a hatful of goals recently, but he has been really important to how Arsenal have been setting up. He played a brilliant ball, a kind of half an assist in their last match. And although he hasn't been scoring for fun, the way they are playing now, I think he's really important to them. He's the sort of driving figurehead that they've perhaps not had for some years. So how are they going to? I mean, they played without a sort of proper striker, as it were, last season, and they did okay, but it was always something you felt was missing. So I think there'll be a lot of worried faces in that Arsenal coaches' room waiting to hear the outcome scans.
And in terms of how they replace him, Jack, we know that Mikel Merino has deputised in that position before, and also Leandro Trossard has played more centrally. What would you do against Slavia Prague? And is there a real concern, or do they have enough that if they could just get through a couple of games, then players might start returning?
Yeah, I think Mikel Merino is a fantastic option, really, given the way he stepped in. None of us expected it towards the end of last season, the way he stepped in and performed that role fantastically. I mean, as Martin said, he's not been scoring pocket loads of goals. So you only need to find someone that's been finishing from about 2 yards out whenever he's managed to get on the score sheet. And Merino will have that figurehead presence, I suppose, in terms of the physical side of the game of being able to occupy defenders, which Gyökeres has been doing, and making space with his runs and his movement for those players behind him. If Merino can replicate that and maybe chip in with a couple of goals for however many games, we don't know at the moment. We've obviously got an international break coming up as well, and it looks like Odegaard isn't too far from returning. Arsenal have definitely improved their depth. Obviously, it's been cut short a fair bit up top, as Martin mentioned. There's no Kai Havertz, there's no Gabriel Jesus to come in, but Merino can go in there. And I think, given the way Arsenal have been performing this season, there'll be the confidence that they can definitely keep moving forward and take these sort of blows on the chin and continue to pick up good results. And you'd be far more worried if it was a Gabriel or Saliba that was picking up this injury, because while they do have depth back there, I don't think they've got anyone quite on the level of those two. The same could be said for Declan Rice, Martin Zubimendi in the middle. So while it's a frustration to lose Gyökeres, the man that was supposed to be the final piece of the jigsaw, especially if it is for more than a couple of games, I think they've got it in them to survive.
Yeah, very strong core, isn't it? 7 straight clean sheets in all competitions for Arsenal. OK, thank you for the moment, chaps. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the stories in the morning's papers, including Martin's tale in the Times. England set to go on the road at a home Euros. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.